Today we're going to talk about Democrats finally fighting back with a major win in Texas, and Joe Biden actually calling out some Democratic holdouts on the filibuster. And I interview member of the Texas State House, James Tallarico, who himself was part of the walkout that killed Texas's voter suppression law. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen, and you're listening to No Lie. I never thought I'd see the day, but Democrats actually showed up and decided to fight back this week. And it may not be a permanent victory, but it was a victory nonetheless, so I want to highlight it. In the Texas State House, the legislative session was ending at midnight, and Republicans were trying to pass SB 7, their own voter suppression bill that I think is the worst bill in the country. More on that in a moment. But at the 11th hour, literally, I think it was 11 p.m., Democrats in the State House together walked out, breaking quorum needed to pass legislation, which requires 2/3 of the 150 House members to be present, thereby killing the bill.
There are 86 ayes, 0 nays. The motion to excuse fails for lack of quorum.
And I'm going to go into the specifics of this bill and why it was so important that it not pass, but I got to say this first. This is how you fight. They figured out a way and they got it done. And for a party that so often seems afraid of its own shadow, holy hell was it nice to not only put up a fight, but win when the stakes were so high. Now, as for why SB 7 is worth having this fight over, it's because it's one of, if not the most restrictive voter suppression bills in the country. It sought to ban after-hours voting and restrict drop boxes and drive-through voting centers. It would have limited Sunday voting hours to between 1 p.m. and 9 p.m., which is as obvious an assault as you could get against efforts like Souls to the Polls, where Black and Latino communities would vote immediately after church and well before 1 p.m. It would have made it illegal to send unsolicited vote-by-mail applications to people and would have barred counties from helping facilitate the distribution of unsolicited ballot requests, meaning that they couldn't work with any get-out-the-vote groups. Absentee ballots would have required providing a driver's license number or the last 4 digits of your social security number on both the ballot request and the return envelope containing the ballot, meaning that basically no one would do it, considering no one wants their social security number on that envelope. And finally, it would have imposed a $1,000 a day fine on local election officials who don't follow specific procedures to update the voter rolls, and criminal penalties on election workers who obstruct partisan poll watchers. Poll watchers, by the way, whose very presence would serve only to intimidate people casting their ballots. So when Republicans claim that these Democrats walking out with some abdication of their duties, when Texas Governor Greg Abbott threatened to withhold pay from these legislators for not showing up to their jobs, just know that this didn't happen in a vacuum. Complaining about these Democrats leaving the chamber without acknowledging why they were leaving is absurd. You don't get to claim they were being anti-democratic by doing whatever was necessary to stop a bill that was the epitome of anti-democratic. Now, with that said, already Texas's Governor Greg Abbott's promised to resurrect this bill in a special legislative session, and I'm sure they'll be a little better prepared for Democratic efforts to block this bill the next time, but the longer we can stop this, the more attention we can shine onto it, the better our chances of mitigating some of the worst impacts. And I'll go into exactly this in more detail in my interview with James Tallarico, including one of the worst provisions that's already been removed thanks to the national attention that the fight over SB 7 is getting. So again, thank you to Texas's Democratic state legislators for not only figuring out how to fight back against this power grab by Republicans, but showing the rest of the country that we don't have to take this lying down, that we don't have to wait for the courts to save us, or for federal legislation to save us, or wait for Republicans to start caring about democracy again. We need to make sure that they don't even get that far, and that's exactly what Texas Democrats did in response to SB 7. And by the way, just seeing what these state Democrats have to do, the hoops they have to jump through to try and plug up this sinking ship, it's finally looking like Biden's feeling the pressure, because even he came out this week with a surprise swipe at the 2 Democratic holdouts for the filibuster, Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, considering we won't be able to pass H.R. 1 with the filibuster intact. This was Biden at an event in Tulsa commemorating the 100th anniversary of the massacre in that city.
But today, as for the act of voting itself, I urge voting rights groups in this country to begin to redouble their efforts now to register and educate voters. And in June should be a month of action on Capitol Hill. I hear all the folks on TV saying, why doesn't Biden get this done? Well, because Biden only has a majority of effectively 4 votes in the House and a tie in the Senate. with 2 members of the Senate who vote more with my Republican friends. But we're not giving up. Earlier this year, the House of Representatives passed For the People Act to protect our democracy. The Senate will take it up later this month, and I'm going to fight like heck with every tool at my disposal for its passage.
And you should know, this is a big deal coming from Joe Biden. Not just because he's the president, but because the guy's been an avid defender of the filibuster. He literally campaigned on keeping the filibuster. And even he's come around to the fact that the only way to pass anything, much less the transformational agenda that he's looking to enact, is to dismantle this relic of the past that Republicans are using to entrench the power of the minority. So look, I'll spare you the filibuster lecture and give you at least 1 week of a breather here, but the point is that from state houses to the White House, Democrats are understanding the importance of pushing back against this tired Republican playbook of obstructing popular legislation while they continue to whittle away at our democracy. But with that said, we can't just rely on that pressure to do the trick. Just as important, we need to put in the work ourselves. I created the Don't Be a Mitch Fund to do exactly that. It's composed of 8 voter registration and voter outreach organizations in 8 states: Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Florida, Iowa, Ohio, Arizona, and Georgia, where the goal is to reach people now. Not in October or November of 2022, but now, so that they're registered, so that they're paying attention, so that they're ready once it's time to go to the polls. We've already raised over $250,000 in just the last month, which I couldn't be more thankful for. So if you want to donate, the link is in the post description, but it doesn't have to be this fund. Find any organization, any state party that focuses on these boots on the ground efforts and donate now when your money makes the biggest difference. The closer to the actual election that you donate, the higher likelihood that your money's going to TV stations so that attack ads can play on a loop. So if you're going to donate, consider doing it when that money can actually go to phone banking and door knocking and voter registration. The strategy works. Georgia is proof of that, but it does take time and money. The fact is that we have the mandate and we have the momentum, but it's going to take everyone's full efforts to get this done. Our democracy isn't a given. The last few years have proven as much, but this is a fight that we can win, and as long as we stay involved and engaged, we will. To listen to my interview with James Tallarico, one of the Texas legislators who staged the walkout that killed SB 7, check out the interviews playlist on my YouTube channel.